Good day, Cass. Today we will tackle the Module 7, the Lesson 2, which is all about the Magna Carta of Women, a very important law that protects the rights, safety, and dignity of all Filipino women. This lesson will help us understand why the law exists and how it supports women, especially those who belong to marginalized or vulnerable groups. So before we start, let me read to you our learning objectives. At the end of the lessons, the students are expected to identify the care rights and protections stated in the Magna Carta of Women, value the importance of the law in promoting gender equality and protecting women, especially those in marginalized sectors, and demonstrate understanding of women's rights by creating a visual presentation that highlights the major provisions of the Magna Carta of Women. This law is important because it officially recognizes women's rights and removes discriminations. It also gives special attention to women who experience more challenges, such as those in poor or marginalized communities. The law requires the government to actively protect women's rights. It created the Philippine Commissions on Women's (PCW) to check if agencies follow the rules. It also mandates regular monitoring and reporting. So government offices must include gender programs in their annual budget. So the PCW checks if agencies follow gender equality laws. The Magna Carta of Women define discriminations against women. So the number one, which means gender-based distinctions, exclusions, or restriction. No? And simple explanation for that, this means treating women differently or unfairly just because they are women. It stops them from enjoying their rights equally with men. So, example, for example, ang company nag-prefer siya hiring men and also gina-reject niya ang women applicants. And also, ang woman is not allowed to join leadership because parang dito sa lalaki. And number two, which means any act of policy that directly or indirectly restricts women's rights. So this includes no rules or actions, even unintentionally, that limit of women's opportunities or benefits or access to services. So the number three, practices that do not address women's disadvantages. Now, some general rules, no, kasi look for but actually harm women because dili nila consider gani. So, women's specific needs or challenges. So, the number four, which mean discriminations combined with other factors. So, women may face double or multiple discriminations when gender combines with poverty, no, ang age pool, ang ethnicity, and disability or religion. The Carta of Women also guarantees the civil, political, and economic rights of women and the marginalized sectors, particularly their right to. So number one, the food security and resources for food production. No? So women must have access to enough food and support to grow or produce their own food. No? So example po is a woman no, is a farmer. No? It receives free seeds no, from the government to help her to grow their crops. And the number two is localized, accessible, secure, and affordable housing. No? So women should have safe, nearby, and low-cost homes. No? Example of that is a single mother is given a unit in a low-cost housing project. So the third one is the employment, livelihood, credits, capital, and technology. So women must have opportunities to work or start their own livelihood. So a woman or receive a small loan to start store. And then the fourth one is the skills training and scholarships. No, women should receive training and educational opportunities. No, example of that is that women joins a free test the training to learn on baking and etc. So number five is a representation and participation in decision making. So women must have a voice. No, in planning no and also decision making bodies no a woman no is appointed as representative in the barangay development council so number six is access to information on women related policies and programs so dapat ang women no should receive clear information about sa mga programs and services para sa ilaha so example no ang women no is nag-attend sa barangay orientation about sa livelihood grants so number seven is the social protections. So women should receive support, no, support such as financial aid, healthcare, and assistance. No? So sama sa mga receive full health coverage and for medical treatment. Na. So number 8 is recognition and preservation of cultural identity. So indigenous or cultural women must have their traditions, respected, no? Sama sa mga indigenous women, continuous social living, supported by a cultural program. Number one, nine rather is inclusion in peace and development discussions. So, women be involved in peace building and community development. So, women join ang mga local peace council to help resolve community conflicts. So number 10 is services for women in especially difficult circumstances. So the WADC. So women facing abuse, mga disabilities, or crisis must receive proper support. So an abused woman is given shelter and counseling at a crisis center. Number 11 is the protections of girl children and from discrimination. So girl must be protected from unfair treatment in school. Health and development. So a young girl receives nutrition support because she is underweight. So number 12 is protections of women, senior citizen. So the elderly must be cared for and protected from neglect or abuse, no? As example of that is a senior woman or receive a multi-social pension, no, from the government, di ba? So the next one is the marginalized sectors in the Magna Carta of Women. So groups that are disadvantaged or vulnerable with limited access to basic services and resources. It often experience poverty and lack of access to health, education, housing, livelihood, and justice. Now, examples include small farmers, fisher poor folk, urban poor workers, migrants, indigenous, and etc. So protections of Filipino women overseas the Magna Carta of Women. So government ensures protections and support for Filipino women living or working abroad, especially trained consulars, officers, and embassies handle women's gender-related concerns. So government agencies work together to provide assistance, protections, and proper services abroad. The government is primarily responsible for implementing the Magna Carta for women. Number 1 is refrain from discriminating against women and violating their rights. Number 2 is protect women against discriminations and from violations for their rights by private corporations, entities, and individuals. Number 3 is promote and fulfill the rights of women in all spheres, including their rights to substantive and non-discrimination. So specific responsibilities of the government in implementing the Magna Carta of Women are planning, budgeting, monitoring, and evaluation for gender and development. Number 2 is creation and or strengthening of gender and development for local points. And then the third one is the generations and maintenance of gender statistics and sex disaggregated database to aid in planning, programming, and policy formulation.